Welcome to Courageous Conviction. Remember that Jeff and I record each Saturday 5 episodes. So please hit the like button, subscribe so you catch all 5 episodes. We usually start out with one theme or topic. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes to really understand it. Some things are more sensitive than others right now, what's going on in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe, and let's jump into this video. Good morning out there. Courageous Conviction. I'm Eric. Jeff.
Good morning. Good morning. It's Jeff here.
How things going, bud?
Yeah, doing good.
Doing good? Yeah, we are too. Your week went well?
Yeah, it did. It looks like things are always changing in the right direction.
Well, that's good. Yeah, same on this end too. It's interesting, because we had a series of a few months where, being a contractor, you kind of relied on the economy and people getting, calling you up for work and so forth. And we had a while we were just months out, and we got all caught up in December. It's funny because we took on a few jobs I didn't want to take on, but some other jobs fell through, and it took forever to get paid. And so I had this little lapse in being able to pay my tithing, right? Because I had nothing coming in. It took us forever, and nothing was coming in the phone calls. And it was kind of funny because I remember, well, we need phone calls. As soon as I get paid, I get my tithing paid, those phone calls open up again. Every time I pay my tithing, phone calls come in. This has been my whole life's been that way. And when I was running that company down in Costa Rica, even though I wasn't active, I hadn't paid tithing. And it was funny because there were times when, we had 80 employees, so we had a good overhead. And there were times when we were tougher, especially when we got around to 2008, 2009, things started to get tough. And they kept saying, well, we need to block out that, we need to reduce your tithing. We can't pay that, right? Can't do this. It's too expensive. I said, pay the tithing and we'll figure out ways to get through this crisis.
Yeah.
And they did. And it was amazing because at the end, when we'd have our management meetings in the mornings, I'd have everybody come in our boardroom, and I'd meet with them all from each division. And when it came to accounting, they talk about how we need to cut corners and so forth. And then somebody would look at what bills we have, and they say, well, we got to cut this thing out about giving the money to the church. And my accounting department would say, oh, no. That stays, because every time we do, we get more money in. So that one's staying. So even they, as non-members, for those years, those rough times, was like the last 3 years we're in business down there, they paid the tithing. They knew that if we paid tithing, that we had hope. And it's interesting that way. Hey, but Jeff, you were talking today earlier, you have some concerns about our freedoms in the church, and a video an older video, actually. It's been out for a few years with Gloria Alvarez and who's a Stossel that's interviewing her.
Yeah.
And about basically some of the deceptions. I think it's a good video to watch too, because she's Latin American, and I think she's going to explain. Yeah,
she's Guatemala, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Guatemala, I believe too. Yeah, and she's got a book or two out as well that they've written. She wrote with an Argentine this book. I can't remember the name of it, but I've touched it and seen it and followed it and read through it. But I think she does a good job too explaining the mindset of the Latino culture, as well as what we're going to start seeing more in the church. And already we're starting to see, as you mentioned earlier, that we're being censored a lot. We're being held back on things we can say and things we used to do because of this woke movement bleeding over into the church. Not that we want to bash on that today or talk about that today, and not that we're trying to bash on anything actually, but rather we just kind of want to talk about how this affects us spiritually, because it does, right? We don't have freedoms, and we have this onslaught of people coming that are used to think a different way. Then they're going to vote a different way, and those freedoms are going to be taken from us. It's like they allowed them to be taken from them, right? And they don't realize that. That's the problem. They're coming here and don't realize that they allowed those freedoms to be taken from them, for the most part. And I know that because I was there, and I've been, lived in four of these Latin countries for 20 years of my life. So I have a really good idea, like you, Jeff. We have a really good idea of the ins and outs and the movements and the culture of Latinos. And there's a lot of great people. Amongst my best friends are down there or from there, right? So I'm not talking on this. I'm talking facts. And that's what we do here in this podcast. We're talking facts so we can learn how to magnify our callings, not just our callings in church, but our callings as priesthood holders, our callings as fathers, our callings as mothers, our callings as in life, our purpose in life, and what is our purpose in building the kingdom of God. So, Jeff, let's talk about some of your concerns, and then we can jump into this video.
Yeah, well, thank you, Eric. It's interesting that you bring up tithing. We brought up tithing from the very, very beginning. I've always, uh, especially in since I came back to the church, made tithing a very top priority. And we're talking about socialism. It seems kind of relative there. And I'll tell you why. Um, years ago on my mission, when I went on, my mission president came to me and he handed me this book and he said, "Why don't you read this? It's by Og Mandino, I think, called The Greatest Salesman in the World." And one of the concepts there was paying 10%, and I've gotten into it with some of these other, um, religious kind of, I don't want to call them bigots because they're not all bigots, but there's some people that are, there's this group called, Christianity versus Mormonism or something like that. And they were always talking about, well, you guys pay your tithing and the church is wealthy and why do you have to pay tithing? And I'm like, well, it goes down to a principle of being grateful for what you have. And our Father in heaven, designed tithing for our benefit. Many years ago when I had an issue with the law and after my mission and I ended up, getting in trouble, I was disfellowshipped. And, I went through that process and I wasn't allowed to pay tithing. You know, I understood then and looked forward to the day I would be able to pay tithing again, and people would think, well, that's odd. Well, why, if the church is so rich and they must really want to keep the money flowing in, why would they keep you from paying tithing? I'm like, well, because it's about blessings and being able to it's a privilege to pay tithing, and when we look at it that way, because we're grateful for what we have in life, just I'm working for corporate America in this job, and it's had its ups and downs, mostly, not great in a lot of things, and I was looking elsewhere, and I think because I've been paying my tithing, I had some headhunters look me up, and I've got another job. A job offer came in. I didn't say no. I would look at it at first, and it just seemed like the right path, and I got an offer for quite a bit more than what I'm making already. And these things, it doesn't always happen financially, but it goes back to that principle of being grateful. No matter what our situation is, we should be able to come up with 10%. It seems, you know, like we could be incapable of doing that, but we're not. It's 10%. It's not a lot to ask for. And our Father in heaven has designed that for us so that we can just come around and say, hey, I know that 100% of everything that I get, I wouldn't have if it wasn't for our Father in heaven. And when we assimilate that into in our spiritual mindset, and that plays out on our world stage and our home stage, we reap those benefits. Sorry about my background here. I don't know what's going on here. So, but we'll just kind of go with it. So that's really what it comes to. And you know what? Socialism is not the way. When I was riding my motorcycle down and I went through, Mexico, I met up with this rich guy who had a Che Guevara tattoo. He had it tattooed on his shoulder, and he was really proud of it, And we talked about Che Guevara, and um, I met him there, and that's when everybody was asking me about the motorcycle diaries, and I kind of got into the whole Che Guevara thing, just kind of researching it because there was a book called The Motorcycle Diaries, and since I was on a motorcycle adventure, then everybody wanted me to read that book, and it was about the same time. It wasn't really a very good movie when the movie came out. It wasn't a great book because it wasn't really about motorcycles, because the first, 10 minutes into the film and, into the book, they wreck the motorcycle, Che Guevara does, and has to ride a bus for the rest of the rest of the adventure. So I'm not quite sure how the motorcycle part fit in there, but it was very brief. Wasn't really a motorcycle journey like mine was anyway. I don't think so. I'll poo-poo on that one. And another reason is because I just don't like Che Guevara, or Fidel Castro or Chavez or any other.
Come on now. When I was in Ecuador, Che Guevara is painted on the walls. They have these people that said are our national heroes, and Che Guevara is painted on the walls. He's one of the national heroes. Yeah, along with the rest of the socialists of the 21st century, or the communist fighters, right? Yeah, and that's
because he brought about a mentality there where people could fight against,
I thank you for being with us on Courageous Conviction. Remember, there's 5 episodes each week that we put out. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes, so stay with us. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and don't miss tomorrow's episode on Courageous Conviction.